Hi everybody. A stock that goes up 50%, 100% and even 500% is rare. But what do you call a stock that delivers 35,000% return over 2 decades? This was not a software company, this was not even a private bank. This was an old and unreliable motorcycle company, a company that had become so weak that it was close to being shut down. And yet, from that broken position emerged one of the greatest business turnarounds in Indian corporate history. This is the story of Royal Enfield. The story begins in the early 1950s on the dusty and dangerous mountain roads of the Indian border, where the Indian Army needed a motorcycle that could carry the soldier through terrain that would break most things built by humans. And the motorcycle they chose was the Bullet. Slowly, even civilians started accepting it. Because Bullet was the official vehicle of the Indian Army and police forces, civilians associated the bike with power, security and prestige, making it highly desirable. That is when a British company established Enfield India in 1955 in India. By 1980s, Bullet had a following that most brands spent millions trying to create. Bullet was not just a product anymore, it became an identity. But here is where the story takes a painful turn. While Enfield was busy being a legend with its old product design, the world around it was changing. The 1990s arrived and with it came the Japanese brands like Honda, Yamaha and Kawasaki with their lighter, faster and more fuel efficient motorcycles. The consumers didn't reject Enfield straightforward but were shifting towards better engineered motorcycles. Also, as Enfield didn't upgrade its product design and production facility, it started facing complaints about engine seizures, snapping cables and oil leakages. This resulted in a sharp drop in sales. That is when the Eicher Group acquired Enfield India in 1993 and changed its name to Royal Enfield in 1994. After Eicher took control, Royal Enfield started working on quality improvement and product development. But still, the business performance hasn't improved. By the year 2000, Royal Enfield's sales had dropped to about 24,000 units a year against an installed capacity of 72,000 units per year. Company had been incurring losses for years. Situation reached such a stage where Eicher was facing a challenge whether to keep Royal Enfield business or to let it go. At this moment, Siddhartha Lal, who was then 26-year-old third generation promoter, took over Royal Enfield as CEO. And what he did next is one of the most remarkable business stories India has ever produced. The sales volume of Royal Enfield increased from 24,000 units in the year 2000 to 52,000 units in 2010 to 3 lakh units in 2014, then to more than 10 lakhs units in 2025. This is unmatched in the motorcycle industry. The company was earning 22% operating profit margin, which is better than that of any other motorcycle brand in India and possibly the highest level compared to any brand globally as well. So the question is, when the experienced management of Eicher couldn't turn around a company, what did a 26-year-old boy do because of which Royal Enfield became a global brand? What are the strategies that he implemented and what are the investment lessons that we can learn from this legendary man? Well, the decisions taken up by the Siddhartha can be summed up into 5 different points. Point number 1. When Siddhartha joined the Eicher Group, the company was trying to do too many things. Eicher was spread across 15 businesses including tractors, gear components and trading. Each business was demanding effort and capital. So Siddhartha decided to let go 13 out of 15 businesses. He kept only commercial vehicle business and Royal Enfield business. When this decision terrified all other executives, He framed his thinking as, would you rather be mediocre in 15 small businesses or genuinely great in one or two? That single mindset shift from diversification to concentration is what freed Royal Enfield from being a neglected asset and made it one of the two bets of the entire company. This is not a common decision. This is a capital allocation decision. Point number 2. When Japanese manufacturers entered the market, they focused on light, fuel-efficient 100cc commuter motorcycles for mass Indian market. That kind of bike runs on tight budget. Siddhartha refused to play that game. He chose the segment where one buys the motorcycle not because he needs transport but because he needs experience. He chose middleweight, the 250cc to 750cc leisure and adventure segment. This completely changed the game. Royal Enfield was no longer competing on pricing and mileage, it was competing on emotion, identity and aspiration. When competitors were fighting to become the best, Royal Enfield was trying to be unique. Point number 3. After doing extensive market research and talking to customers, Siddhartha realized that Bullet still had aspirations. What it lacked was reliability. There were oil leakages due to outdated engines. So Siddhartha invested in engineering, redesigned the engine from the ground up and launched a new engine in 2009 which had 30% fewer parts, 30% more power and was more efficient. But while modernizing the engine, Siddhartha insisted on one non-negotiable thing. The iconic sound, that distinctive dug-dug sound, had to stay. Because he understood something deep, that is, the thumb sound was not a noise, it was a brand's heartbeat. He was modernizing the machine without killing its soul. Point number 4. Strategy can point you in the right direction, but nothing builds a brand quite like a product that makes people stop on the street and stare. Alongside all the strategic and operational work happening inside the company, Siddhartha pushed his team to create motorcycles that were not just reliable but iconic. The first breakthrough was the launch of Classic 500 in year 2008. It wore its heritage, round headlamp, teardrop tank and vintage silhouette and also carried modern engine. Then came the Himalayan in 2016. This one was different. This was Royal Enfield's first original design built for adventure touring. Then came the Interceptor 650 and the Continental GT 650 in 2018. These were twin-cylinder engines and classic roadster style styling. Each product brought new riders, new age groups and new geographies while staying completely true to the brand's DNA. And point number 5. Siddhartha understood that Royal Enfield could not just sell products, it must sell identity. So he built an entire ecosystem around the motorcycles. Riding events, group tour to the Himalayas, owner communities, branded apparel and accessories and flagship stores. A customer who buys a product can easily switch to competitor's product, but a rider who has done Himalayan tour with fellow Enfield owners, who wears a jacket, who goes to Rider Mania event, that person is not just a customer, he is the member. This building of community brought competitive advantage for the brand. So Siddhartha understood that the Royal Enfield brand needs to be aspirational. That aspiration would bring sales. Then the high quality product would help in retaining those customers, which in turn would enhance brand value, which would then bring more sales. Each of these 5 decisions on their own would be a great business move. Together, they form one of the most complete turnaround stories in the business history. This transformed a brand that was once considered outdated and unreliable to become the largest selling motorcycle brand in the premium middleweight segment in the entire world. This brings me to the 3 key lessons that we can learn from this case study. Lesson number 1. Even if you have a great brand, a bad product will eventually kill you. Enfield had a great brand during 1980s, but due to the bad quality products, customers shifted to its competitors. This eventually would decrease the sales of a company and a brand would die. So, a deep market research is a must to validate the real problems of the customers and to understand the why. Some executives even go to the extent of living the life of their customers to build near perfect product market fit. So as an investor, we must do the scuttlebutt to understand how the customer thinks about the products of the company we are researching. Lesson number 2. When Siddhartha closed 13 out of 15 businesses, the company became focused on just 2 businesses. This brought focused attention to the business. Michael Porter suggests that a strategy of being unique and focused is considered far superior to the haphazard diversification. Focused attention allows the company to understand its customers better, bring efficiencies to the operations, and reduce competitive pressures. So an investor betting on a business with focused strategy has higher chances of making good returns than betting on one business with several commodity type business segment. And lastly, lesson number 3. The most durable consumer businesses are not just those with good products, they are those that own the entire ecosystem around the product. Royal Enfield built riding communities, created experiential events, and established a service network. A competitor cannot easily dismantle a community, a culture, and an identity. Such ecosystem brings a switching cost to the customers. So for an investor, this is one of the most important things to identify in any consumer brand. These are the lessons that you can learn from this case study, and I hope this was valuable to you. If this was value addition to you, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.